All right, man, peace. So as many of you brothers know, especially due to the contributions of Stacey Abrams, who basically was a well-placed pawn within the Georgia political framework, so-called black women have, well, liberal so-called black women have gone to great pains and great strains to try to cast themselves as the stars of the salvation of quote-unquote American democracy, which shows that they have a difficult time discerning between democracy and the Democratic Party. The liberal black female has been trained to believe that the Democratic Party is the personification of democracy, as opposed to the two-party system, which is meant to balance each other out in values and ideologies, cultural mores, etc. That's why I tell brothers in these last days, you're going to have to distance yourself from the liberal black woman and really so-called liberal people, period, because they're going to constantly be trying to probe into the inner recesses of your mind in order to discern and figure out what your beliefs are. There is going to be a proverbial war waged by the thought police in these last days, especially as people who align themselves with liberalism believe that they're gaining power. They want to stamp out any form of thought that one might cast as quote-unquote conservative, or really not even stridently liberal. People are going to ask you certain questions about your beliefs on religion, on sexuality, on gender roles, things of that nature. And if you know that you're not stridently liberal, I would definitely advise you to stay out of those conversations, because it could cost you your livelihood in these last days, especially, particularly if you're working in the corporate America workspace. You have to make sure that you stay out of a lot of those conversations, especially if you know that you're a truth teller. And the main agent that will be used to probe your mind or probe your thoughts will be the person that they've taught you is a quote-unquote queen and a goddess, that being the liberal black female. People like Jamel Hill and Carrie Champion, who work on your job and who are going to ask you, hey, what do you think about the election? Even if you say, I don't really get involved in politics, their antennas are going to raise. They're going to say to themselves, I wonder if he's jealous of Kamala, if he's one of those niggas. I have to watch him. Then they might do something like, oh, we heading to the gay parade. What do you think about that? People concern themselves with shit like that once they see that you're not fully in line with their beliefs or their thoughts, because they're plotting. So all of this is an offshoot of this notion that so-called black women save democracy. Most so-called people, period, in America don't even know what democracy is. Democracy actually is the ability to disagree and come to terms with that disagreement by coming together and making a compromise that's best for all. It's not about one side defeating the other side, because there are certain factors within liberalism or socialism that are relevant. There are many disenfranchised people that need help for a limited period of time. The problem with strident liberalism or the Democratic Party is that they seek to make people dependent on the government for an indefinite and permanent period of time, as opposed to a limited period of time. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Welcome back to Won't Stick to Sports. Now, Carrie, something you and I have talked.
Y'all need to stick to the damn kitchen. Y'all don't even need to stick to sports. You need to stick to the damn kitchen, because neither one of these broads are even qualified to talk about sports, much less talk about politics.
A lot about off air, but we feel as if people should be talking about this more, is that it wasn't just Stacey Abrams, it wasn't just Latasha Brown with Black Voters Matter, it was also the WNBA that played a major role in what happened in Georgia. Raphael Warnock, Reverend Raphael,
the good Rev,
government asset. I mean, this guy, you could tell he was made in an office or a laboratory somewhere, and I put laboratory in quotes, but not really, because it's very obvious to me that he's an asset. He's not what they claim he is. He's not no real damn reverend or whatever they're claiming. This guy's an asset. Anytime you have someone come out of nowhere and win a Senate seat in Georgia, basically quote unquote turn that state blue per se, which means that he's an advocate for abortion and female rights and LGBTQ. None of that has anything to do with the Bible, so he's not a reverend, he's a plant.
He was polling at 9% in August before the Atlanta Dream and the WNBA decided to throw their support behind him and elevate his entire national profile.
Right, but why did they do that? Did they do that because they thought that he was going to help so-called black people, or did they do that because they know that he is pro-abortion? and also that he's running contrary to the person who currently owns that franchise, who has come out against the Black Lesbians Matter movement.
He is now Georgia's first black senator, which is his...
No, that's not accurate. There were 2 black senators before Mr. Raphael Warnock. One was named Aaron Bradley, and the other was named Tunis Campbell. Now, Aaron Bradley, he could have had a Caucasian father, so-called Caucasian father, but I mean, for the sake of conventional historical talk, they align him as being a so-called black person. But Jemele Hill states that Raphael Warnock was the first senator from Georgia who was so-called black. That's not accurate. That's not true. There were 2 prior to him. They just existed in the 1800s. But woke blacks don't like to speak about a lot of the strides that were made in the mid to late 1800s during the Reconstruction era, because they have to cast that time period as all so-called black people coming fresh out of slavery, dressed in tattered clothes and having cotton stuck under their fingernails.
Historic and great, but also trifling. At the same time. All at the same time. Let's talk about it.
Why would that be trifling, though, if you know that, or if you claim that there's been some type of improvement? Once again, this is why so many of these females, they have so many relationship issues. Even when good things happen, they have to reflect on the bad.
About these women who, some of the players we know personally, they don't have $1 million contracts.
No. Nor should they. They shouldn't even have $1,000 contracts. How much money did Kerry Champion and Jemele Hill donate to the WNBA? Because they're both making in the 7 figures per year, I would assume. I could be wrong, but I mean, at the very least, I would think that they're making in the upper 6 figures. But maybe that's why they have this show, because they were promised that they would get a salary that will bump up their overall yearly wage, as long as they just speak that normal liberal bullshit. Maybe that's why Kerry Champion's on TV cursing up a storm, trying to act like Sister Soldier, because she was told that she would be paid to do so. But just getting back to the point, the females in the WNBA should not be getting paid even in the thousands. They should be paying the NBA to play and get a spotlight. Like, yeah, people who pay to have internships under famous people, that's what the WNBA players should be doing.
They don't have
$30,000-$40,000 maybe.
At most, right?
I thought it was ingenious during the time, summer, the bubble, and they all decided, guess what? I'm not fooling with Kelly Loeffler.
Who was correct in her statements, by the way, Kelly Loeffler. Everything that she stated about Black Lesbians Matter was correct, factually.
And the fact that she owns the Atlanta Dream and she's denouncing BLM. Let's figure out a way to get rid of her. While we may not be able to remove her, right, as an owner, we sure in hell can protest her being a lawmaker.
And they got her about the paint in a way that matters more to her. Because I mean, she's the richest senator, or was the richest senator that was there. And the power means a lot.
The women of the WNBA always lead, and we have to get...
Lead where? But I wanted to pause it there, because what Kerry Champion was really saying is that the so-called black woman is the new leader. If you've been following any of these situations, you'll know that there have been quote-unquote black male activists amongst NBA players for years now. Whether you want to call them sincere or not sincere, which I call many of them not sincere. But this notion that the WNBA players have been leading in anything is just nonsense. And once again, the reason why they're advocating for Warnock is not because he's a so-called black man. It's because they know that he's pro-abortion and he's pro-LGBT. The so-called black man has to remove himself from that Democratic Party nonsense. They don't give a fuck about you. Cats will respond back, well, does the Republican Party give a fuck about me? No, of course they don't. But at least the Republicans will be honest with you and let you know, we only respect you if you make your own money. That at least should galvanize the so-called black man to make his own money so that he can have power where he needs it within his own home.
Correct. We appreciate you. All right, so since we are here, I thought I'd take a moment to talk about the sad lady, Kelly Loeffler.
Is she as sad as that wiggy gun on your damn head? Is she as sad as that?
Back in July, she went on Fox News to give her sad opinion on Black Lives Matter. Take a listen.
The WNBA has embraced the Black Lives Matter political organization. This is a very divisive organization based on Marxist principle.
Facts.
that, seeks to destroy American principles.
Facts.
And I had to draw the line.
Did you, Sad Kelly, have to draw the line? You say Marxist and divisive, but BLM is simply saying, don't kill us. Don't.
Lies. This person, Carrie Champion, has never been on the Black Lesbians Matter website. She's never read the touchstones or the goals of the Black Lesbians Matter movement. She's never heard one of the alleged founders, Patrice Cullors, come out and state unequivocally that the Black Lesbians Matter movement were trained in Marxist tactics. I doubt if Carrie Champion even knows what the term Marxist means.
Kill black people, police. That's all they're saying.
Lies. What the Black Lesbians Matter movement is doing is trying to promote female superiority through the energy of witchcraft. They actually utilize spell casting and witchcraft in many of their seances and their gatherings, especially when their quote-unquote elders are there. But I'll be dealing with that in the continuance of my series pertaining to the Black Lesbians Matter movement. They use a concept known as the power of three. That's why they have those three bitches leading the organization. But it's all a front and a facade. But dingbats like Carrie Champion, they don't understand what's going on. That's why it's up to the so-called black man to wake up, man, and grasp the spiritual component. Everything is spiritual. Everything is a spiritual attack. That's why they prop the so-called black woman up as this magical, mystical leader. Black girls rocking black girls magic. Because they want her there knowing that she cannot combat what's going on. The woman cannot see through the spell casting of the serpent. They're enticed by the serpent, so how can they fight against it?
After yesterday's events in our nation's capital, Sad Kelly, we see divisiveness, we see privilege, we see the real threat to our democracy, and it is not BLM.
Now it's our democracy. Well, if America has always been as deceptive and divisive and racist as you say, why would you claim the democracy of America? What you're really claiming are the ideologies that are always going to subsidize your false notion of female independence. See, the liberal black woman is scared to death that she's going to wake up one day and have to listen to what a so-called black man says. Scared to death. And I'm not talking about all so-called black women. There's plenty of so-called black women out there who are in a relationship with their man and they listen to what their man has to say because he's intelligent and he's a worker and he does what he has to do to provide for himself and has the wisdom to teach her and his children as he should. I'm not saying that a woman should just listen to a so-called black man simply because he has a penis between his legs. I'm not saying that. But people like Carrie Champion, Jamel Hill, and the vast majority of liberal black females, of which 95 to 98% of all black females in Western society are liberal, they're scared to death that they're going to have to listen to what a so-called black man has to say one day. And I'm talking about a so-called black man that has his own thoughts and who's not a dancing puppet like Obama. That's what all this sideshow is about. Trying to force themselves on, the U.S. governmental system and claiming to have saved democracy. What the liberal black woman is saying is that we've saved our entitlement because Donald Trump was chipping away at female entitlement and it was killing them on the inside. That's why some of these females talking about how depressed they were and they're drinking alcohol and popping antidepressants. Every time they put on TV and saw Donald Trump's face, they saw a dude who was not intimidated by their bullshit.
And you, Sad Kelly, are a part of the problem. Your name is now Sad Kelly. The WNBA has a real problem on their hands, and it is Sad Kelly. She should not be an owner of any team in this league.
Well, from what I understand, she recently has sold her share or her stake in the team. So they got what they wanted. Now these silly, unfortunately looking lesbians will have their team and their league all to themselves with no one to watch.
It stands for diversity, it stands for opportunity, it rides with Black Lives Matter.
Nonsense. What the WNBA stands for is the exaltation of lesbianism. And the reason why they ride with Black Lives Matter is because they know that the Black Lives Matter movement is a black lesbian movement, just like the WNBA is.
I know that Sad Kelly, because that is her new name, can't be forced to sell her team, but the...
What a witty moniker applied by Carrie Champion, Sad Kelly. Sounds like something a second grader would make up.
League should know they have a real problem on their hands. She's not wanted by the players, or for that matter, the folks in Georgia. That state said, we simply don't want Sad Kelly to be a part of our lawmaking process.
Well, shit, if that's the case, I'm sure that means that Sad Kelly has a lot of things in common with you, Carrie Champion, because I don't think that you're that wanted by most people either. Underneath the hair weave and the makeup and all that other shit, you have major issues. That's obvious just looking at you.
So at the end of the day, I say this to Sad Kelly Loeffler. You need to get out the paint.
Sad Kelly. All right.
That's her name. Sad Kelly needs to get up out the paint.
Yes,
You better leave Sad Kelly alone before she buy y'all show.
they got her up out of there. And just kudos.
I would love to see these two invite Kelly Loeffler onto their show, invite Candace Owens onto their show, so that we could have a healthy quote-unquote debate or discussion. They'll never do that because they both know that they'll get obliterated. Obliterated. I would love to see Candace Owens with her crazy ass on this show. She would make these two bitches look so stupid. It would be hilarious.
To those women, as we mentioned beforehand, all the black women everywhere.
Amen.
Again, how many times do we have to save democracy?
That's what we do. And I think
Please list all of the times that you guys saved democracy, Jamel Hill. Please help me out with that. She said, how many times do we have to save democracy? Please tell me all the times that so-called black women have quote-unquote saved democracy. What Stacey Abrams did when she saved the Democratic Party, she didn't say no fucking democracy. That's why these bitches still can't figure out why 18 or 19% of black men voted for Donald Trump. Because so-called black men who have their mind focused on what it should be focused on, they recognize a person with a business mind when they see one. An entrepreneurial mind when they see one. And the economy was booming before that fucking COVID-19 thing hit. That pandemic.
then you go home and make black eyed peas.
Yes, collars, black eyed peas, and democracy. That's what black women are about.
Yes, all that slave food. Just like the black woman's version of democracy. But anyway, brother, that's basically it on that. Peace.